episode 8
Yes.
of The Ladies and the Low People. This is the last episode of season 1, and I am right here with the usual suspects. Boss babes.
B. O'Gara.
Brenda O'Gara.
And C. Como. Yep. And D.
Oh,
D.
Amanda.
Nice.
We are just happy to be in this space, happy to have had you walk with us all through this entire first season. We have learned lessons ourselves, even as we tried to bring you information which we believed that you needed. Your feedback has been absolutely amazing. It has been really, really good, and we are looking forward to the next season. Yep. So we started, this was our family series. So we started by talking about liking each other, sex, and the law. We talked about situationships.
Yes.
And
Entanglements.
Entanglements.
Marriages.
Yes, different kinds of marriages. And then we talked about property and women. We talked about, and then we got to a place where people were not seeing eye to eye, and then they went their separate ways. That was a very somber episode. Divorce. And then we talked about children and their rights and adoption and custody, and now we're at this juncture in our lives where we are thinking about posterity, and we're thinking about legacy and what we are leaving for those that come behind us. So, and Shiro is dressed like a rich auntie looking to inherit big monies.
I'm ready. I'm ready for the money to come my way.
Yes. And then this one looks like the one that has been left. And then in me, I'm just, that congregant in the church who's come to say,
I'm so sorry.
I'm so sorry. But so today we are talking we are at the end of the road, and we are talking about succession.
Yes.
Succession is a word that's often used in the legal space, but people don't quite understand what do you mean by succession. Brenda, what's succession?
Succession is succession.
Thank you very much.
Yes. You're welcome.
In other words,
succession is the process through which you bequeath somebody of your property, in terms of perhaps leaving a will, and in that will you lay your wishes that I intend to have son A, son B, bequeath this, get this, da 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 da. The other side of it is also the process now where you actually go to court, because it's a litigation procedure, where you actually go to court and take out letters of probate. So for purposes of administering your estate, the deceased estate.
Can we use language that the public will understand?
So we have letters of administration. So you go through the probate division of the High Court for purposes of getting administering somebody's estate, the deceased estate. So I don't know if that makes sense.
So someone has died and they have some property.
Yes.
And who goes?
So the process, in fact, now it's good to even bring it into context. Somebody has died, left an estate, left property.
Yes.
So now the process of converting ownership of this property to yourself. That is succession.
That is the process of succession.
That is the process of succession.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Do we have wills? Have we written our wills?
Who asked us?
Yes.
Well,
because in African culture, it's like
we don't talk about death.
Yes, we don't talk about death like that, like it's your friend, And then when you prepare for it, it's like you're preparing for death. You're preparing for it. Are you sick? Are you
are you leaving us?
Are you leaving us? So do we have wills?
No, personally no. Maybe after this discussion.
You should have a will.
Yeah.
Mine has been in the process of being drafted for a while now. but it will be finalized
Brenda has
very
a
soon.
lot of property. Let it
I'm
go,
actually
Brenda.
writing.
So are you
I'm
writing
so
it
much-
yourself?
I'm in the
so
process
much
of
to be
drafting.
made.
I'm in the process of drafting clients' wills so that mine takes a back seat, by the way. But it's in the process of being drafted, yeah.
I
Excellent.
mean, it sounds like, is it like a long process? So
Not really. It depends. It depends on
how much you have?
On how much you have. Exactly.
See why
I've
yours is-
written.
why yours is taking
I've
long.
had
This is why
clients
it's
where
taking so
I've had
long,
clients where I've had back and forth like 2-3 times or 4 times.
Yeah.
And then I've had clients who, it's just never ending. Like
Maybe
some
you should
that I
even
have
like
right now.
define maybe what a will is, because the assumption is people know what a will is.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
there's a specific format, you know.
Yeah.
Like what does a will look like?
What
does
is a
it
will? What does
contain?
it contain?
So a will is, let me define what it is first. So a will is basically your wishes put down in writing, such that in case of your death, your wishes are actually stipulated therein, so that your people, your dependents, are guided by that.
Okay.
Yes. So wills have to be written, right? They may be oral, but those are in exceptional circumstances. So they have to be written. You have to have at least 2 witnesses. Now, these witnesses, they may or may not be your beneficiaries. Now, beneficiaries are the people who are going to benefit from this estate. So your property is referred to as your estate. Yes. So you have to have 2 witnesses.
I know there's someone watching who's like, wait,
What is estate?
What is it that people who have estates are the ones who
Our wills, yes. Our wills for people in the states, whatever those are.
Exactly, branches. Mimi sina estate. Mimi kona jack.
It's your property is what is referred to as the deceased estate. So once you have your 2 witnesses, you have to at least initialize and put a mark on that document that refers or that would show any third party that he intended this to be his last testament and will. Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't know if you guys have got that.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm just
So it has to
wondering-
be very intentional. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yes, very deliberate.
It has to be very deliberate.
And there's no particular form. Like if I took my notebook today and just drafted something on my notebook, and I had you 2 as my witnesses, would that be considered?
It's not a particular form or format. What it has to show is that it is indeed your last will and testament. So at least those words have to be there.
So it doesn't need to be certified by like a lawyer or someone?
So we as lawyers, we help guide clients in terms of ensuring compliance, in terms of ensuring that this will is proper, in terms of ensuring that, in the instance that they actually do pass on, we as the custodians know who to contact and how to basically inform the family of the deceased's wishes. Yeah. Okay. So at the end of the day, basically, for instance, as an advocate, if you came to me to write a will, and I can clearly see that you have no capacity to write this will, probably you're 17 years old, but you're a YouTuber, you're a big shot, and you would think in your wisdom or lack of it thereof, you'd think, since I'm rich, let me write a will. But you see, it would not be legal. It would not be recognized because you lacked capacity at that time. So my job as a lawyer is to, first of all, confirm all these things, that they are satisfied for you to now proceed to now jot down your wishes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm doing 10 minutes every episode.
No, that's what we can actually do for you. So.
Go away, Miriam.
15 plus 6. 21.
All right.
Excellent. So Brenda, what happens? So it's all nice and great.
Sounds good.
Yeah. You sit there one evening at your desk with your pen or on your what's it called, tablets, and jot down what you believe is your last will and testament.
Yes.
That's great. But how many people actually do that? And if you don't do that, and things happen and you pass away, how will your estate be distributed?
Yeah, and I think even before we go there, at times when we think of wills, think of like, I'm 70, you know.
Yeah, oh yes, true.
70 years old, I'll be dying soon or whatever
Let me
is.
write this will.
We say last will and testament.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's something adjustable. Say at my age, I can do a will with my estate right now.
Mm-hmm.
And then as the estate grows, then I can keep coming back to like Brenda
revise,
to just revise and so it's not an old person's thing. Yeah,
it's very true.
Yeah.
In fact, right now as we speak, I'm really trying to encourage my peers as well that we guys, we have to write wills.
Yeah.
You don't have to be rich first to write a will. If you own whatever it is you own, if it's just that car that you have, you have no land somewhere, it is important that you give or bequeath the person you deem fit or best for you to inherit that car. So it's not about I only have a car, it's okay, I won't write a will. It's important that you do so, because at the end of the day it's about your wishes being exactly
ensuring that the person that you feel that you would like to get this thing,
because now in the absence of that will, we refer to it as dying intestate. When you die intestate, now your property is subjected to the laws of succession, which involve your dependents laying a claim to your property that you've left. So they will be guided by the courts. It's for them to sit down and see. And by the way, the other reason why it's important to have a will is because you as an individual, you are the only person who knows all your properties.
Yes.
So you may be a family man, a family woman, and people know that we have this plot in Ruiru, we have this land in Naivasha, and this house in Kisumu. But apparently, even before you got married, you had some plot in Mombasa by the beach or whatever. You had this car that is always in Kisumu that you use, but nobody, there are so many things that you may be lost. In case you die.
I think
intestate.
Even in the other way, maybe you have dependents that are not
known
by
dependents.
other dependents.
So it's important that you leave a will. But in the absence of that, the courts will always guide you, and you'll be subjected to the rules of succession.
I think, Brenda, what happens most, and it's closest home, there's probably someone a friend who's going through this. Their parent died maybe 5 years ago, and they are still chasing the authority to access their parents' accounts or things like those. So what does that process of intestacy, that process of probation look like? Where do you, so your person has gone, where do you start?
There's no will.
Yes, without a will, where do you start?
So without a will, there are what we call letters of administration. So it's an application you make before the court, showing that this person has died, and I, as a dependent, I intend to take out, definitely it's always I and so many others, as dependents of this deceased person, we intend to take out letters of administration. Now, as dependents, you need to discuss amongst yourselves who is going to be the administrators. Now, administrators are the people who carry out the act of distribution of the property. So their job is to first collect and hold it in trust for everybody until the process of succession is done. Then now, according to how it's going to be decided amongst the family members, they're going to distribute it however it is that it was decided.
Okay, see you.
We can do succession for that battery.
Unaona vile hizi ndege zinanipenda, ni mimi tu.
It's just you.
It's me by
Maybe you do most of the talking.
So family members will sit down and discuss and nominate two persons, at least two people, to act as administrators. In most cases, it's always the spouse. If it's one spouse that died, So it's always the surviving spouse that will always be at least one of the administrators, and then possibly with one child who is also an adult. Of course, they have to have capacity, they have to be of age. So you'll always find that it's always the spouse and the surviving child who take out these letters of administration. Now, in this family meeting, it's always important that people sit down and say, okay, fine. In the unfortunate circumstance, for instance, that it was the father, it's you discuss. So dad left this property in this district, this property in this, okay, nowadays it's sub-county. So this property in this sub-county, and this property in the rural home, and this car and the bank account and these shares in this company. So it's amongst the family that they will decide how to divide this property. Because in most cases, the court will always ask if everybody is okay with how the division of the property is. But before we even get to that, essentially it is always assumed that all property devolves to the spouse, the surviving spouse, to hold it in trust for the children.
So it's easier when the kids are not adults. Is
So,
it an easier
yes,
process in that case?
Much easier. When the
Okay.
kids are not adults, it is very easy. Everything is devolved to the mother to hold in trust for the children.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So that is always, and by the way, you'll find that things like immovable property, say, for instance, motor vehicles and whatnot, those ones the court will almost always leave to the spouse to do with whatever it is that they want to do with. But when it comes to, movable property if it's movable property, the spouse is granted, discretionary powers. You can do with it whatever it is you wish. But if it's immovable in terms of land, then now you have to hold it in trust for these children.
Okay.
Yes.
So what happens where there's contention in terms of who was really the spouse?
And it happens.
Yes, it happens a lot. Like, who was really the spouse and who are the actual dependents? How does the court go about figuring out who should actually inherit from this property?
And even in more formal settings, like in polygamous marriages, for example. So what happens in that case?
In both scenarios, the children, provided you can prove that this was a child to the deceased, they definitely have a right to inherit. Yes, from their parents' estate. But most importantly, in terms of what your question was,
The spouses.
you have to prove. In most cases, you find that it's the children who are accorded that right. It's never the wife. So if you are a side chick, for instance, you cannot come and lay claim to somebody's property. If that union of yours, brought forth a child,
Dependent,
yes, then that child is definitely a dependent of that deceased. So by virtue of that child will definitely be granted a part of that estate.
So if you're an ex or a baby mama or baby daddy, the right is accorded to the child.
It's the child.
In most instances, it's always the child. It's never the spouse. More so if the spouse has already moved on and even gotten married.
Yeah.
The minute you get into another union, it's done.
All right, Brenda, I'd ask, what are those things within this process that can be a challenge? Because there have been people around us that we've seen they've waited 5, 10, 15 years for the resolution of this issue. Perhaps they haven't been able to go to school, their lives changed completely because they have been waiting for this process to be resolved. What are those issues within the legal process that occasion such delays?
The challenge is always mostly from the parties themselves. It's never from the courts. It never is.
Okay.
It never is. It's always, and this is why I always say, by the way, it's just good to have your will. Just do everything when you're still alive. Because all hell breaks loose when one parent dies. Because it is then that children now feel, they have a right over their parents' property.
Yes.
In claiming that they have that right, not everybody is happy with what everybody is going to get. You understand? So you find that this brother is of the opinion that since I'm the first boy, I need to do this. Yeah, exactly. And since you're a woman and you're married, you need to go to. And these things actually come up. They do. They still do. And there's still issues as to division of property. Number two, there's also the issue of property not being known.
Yeah.
And that takes me back to my initial point and the reason why you need to have a will. So you find that there's always this issue of, I think this property is ours. This used to be that. He told me one day, and there's no paper to prove proprietorship. There's no proof that it was indeed his. So there's still that it's still probably even in court as between now the family of the deceased and the initial owner, who's probably saying, even if it was your father's, he never finished paying me. You understand? So it's such things that really derail the whole process of succession. So in most instances, it's never the court, it's almost always from the family.
So Brenda, if there's a case of a family that has lost, say, a dad or a mom, the family decides how to distribute the property in the absence of a will. The judge can't come say, okay, according to all these, information brought forward, you get this, you get this. That doesn't happen.
It always depends on the ages of the dependents. For instance, if they are school-going children and there's money in a bank or shares at a company, then of course it's the spouse, the surviving spouse, to take care of that money for purposes of these children. Or if there were cars, it is the duty of this surviving spouse to ensure that I can sell this car because I have my own car. I can sell his car for purposes of facilitating fees for these children. So in case where, for instance, there's an adult child and other minors, that is why the courts will almost always ensure that the movable property is left to that surviving spouse for purposes of facilitating these children's livelihoods. And then the immovable ones, let that spouse hold it in trust for the children.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So it's always discretionary. They can also still look at it and be like, no, let us do ABCD, let me shift it, basically
So
just to ensure that children's, to a certain extent, of course.
And in the case where everyone is an adult, the judge can't have a say on what happens when?
The judge will ask you, oh, by the way, for succession matters, when you're making it absolute now, you will always appear before court, all of you.
Okay.
The whole family. Most of the ones who've been listed in these pleadings.
Yeah.
Yes. So the judge will ask one by one from the spouse to the last born. And you even present your ID and the judge will look at you before court and you'll be asked, all of you, are you guys okay with this application and with the way the property has been distributed? You will all say yes.
Okay.
Once that is done, it is sealed and signed. Yeah.
Brenda, just a clarification for the young women out there who are feeling like, I am a woman, do I have a right to inherit property? What would you say to that?
Yes, you're a woman, you have every right to inherit property.
It's a simple yes.
Very simple yes.
Very simple yes. Yeah, so you be clear about that. All right, so as we close, I think the lesson that we take away from this is very simple. Write a will.
Write a will.
Write a will.
No matter what you have.
No matter what you have, even if it's just books.
Just no matter how old or young.
Yes.
Young you are. Okay, no, if you're under 17, you.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
But if you're under 18,
yes.
If you're an adult.
If you're an adult,
yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Well, ladies, it has been a ride.
It has
good
been
ride.
Good one, yeah.
And we've come to the close of it.
Yeah.
Absolutely grateful to you. We'd really like to hear your questions about the things that we've discussed so far and to hear your stories about your experiences with loving, birthing, marrying, and divorcing and
buying property
and bequeathing. But thank you very much for following us and supporting us. We are really looking forward to the next season of Ladies and the Law. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yay.
Yay.
kisera